Florian, thanks a lot
Yeah.
for taking the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
I'm really excited to have you here because of the fact that usually the kind of stuff that we show and the type of artists that we show on our channel are more related to architecture archivists. You come from, I don't know, can you tell me a little bit where, in which sphere of the digital design it is that you're working?
Actually, I'm a 2D graphic designer at the beginning, and then like 4 years ago, I started doing 3D, and I was a lot inspired by people, like like everyone in the 3D field. And yeah, I started taking course at School of Motion, like the C4D beginner camp. I don't really remember exactly which one. So yeah, it all started like that, and then I started doing every day, like people. For I did it like for 6 or 7 months, and then yeah, no, I was a lot inspired by George Pierce as well, and Fabian, the Dizzy Viper, and yeah, it all started like that. So yeah, I have a 2D graphics designer background. Then I lost my job, so I started doing 3D, and then it all started like that.
And tell me, how did you land your first job in 3D and in which field it was?
Like the first job I had in 3D, it was like I worked for an event company. Like I was doing the presentation, the 3D scenery for the event. And then I also did a cover for a music band. And then I work for other event company. And right now, I don't have a lot of clients right now, but I'm trying to really focus on the music band. I really like to work with this guy because most of the time they're like, yeah, we want that, but you can express yourself. And usually they come to you and they come to you because they like your style already. So it's way easier to work with this kind of guy.
And tell me, like, so most of the work comes through your social media activities?
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram, most of them is from Instagram.
And isn't it like, because I know that Instagram can be a very nasty place
Yeah.
to talk to clients.
Yeah. Sometimes people are coming to me and they're like, oh, yeah, I have $100. Can you make me an animation? And I'm like, bro, no.
It's weird because like I've had this experience as well, and I had a conversation with somebody who came from Instagram, and the first thing that I did, I pitched the entire company that I was working for,
Mhm.
and I told them, what it was that we were doing, and the guy was like, "Oh wow, I thought you were a guy in front of a computer doing it by yourself." I was like, "No, no, no, this is actually a company doing all the work."
Yeah, and even Instagram, it's like sometimes it's like complicated to share your work with people because the algorithm is like sometimes you share something that you are really proud of and nobody is seeing it and you're like, oh wow, I put so much time in this work and nothing is coming from it. So
I
yeah,
know
but that's the game.
it's really, I have the feeling all the time that a lot of designers, when they play inside of Instagram, uh, with sharing content and everything, they don't do it for the sake of the design itself. They do it for the numbers,
Yeah.
which is a really frustrating game to play
Mhm.
because it's like, what are the rules of this game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
totally.
do you recall the first job that came through Instagram that you said, okay, this can actually be a good thing?
Yeah, I think it was electronic artist music from Los Angeles, I think. And yeah, it was already a small animation, but I asked maybe 500 euros, something like that. It was like I don't know, cheap. Like it was the first the first job, so I wasn't like experienced like I am now, but I'm more experienced right now. But yeah, it was a good experience. Like I had to have a call, a meeting with him, and like it was the first time for me to have this kind of stuff and do as an independent worker. So yeah, and I'm still here right now, but like sometimes we have months like you have nothing, you don't have any project, and so yeah, I don't know if I will do that in my interior life, but
As long as you're happy, I think, like,
yeah,
actually, an example that I always bring to other artists is the work of the Dizzy Viper, because he actually doesn't work full time as an artist.
yeah,
The parents own a small hotel somewhere, and he's
I
actually
know that.
busy with that. And
Hmm.
so, he says, I have the freedom to work on whatever it is that I like. And so, this is the and this
It's
is not,
great for him. Seriously,
but
that
thi-
it's
but this is
lucky.
not the first time that I hear people telling me stuff like this. There is a lot of like artists that they say, look, the type of art that I do, I understand it. It's not very commercial. It's not for
Hmm.
everybody.
Yeah.
And so I have to do other things in order to make ends meet. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if you're happy doing what you do, and like the reason why I wanted to talk to you, it's because when I look at your work, I feel mesmerized and very relaxed, with all these beautiful
Yeah, that's the goal.
animations, and so I guess that you find a lot of joy in making that work. Is
Yeah,
that
of course.
correct?
Yeah. If I wasn't passionate about what I'm doing, I won't do it. Like every scene I create, it's like I want to live in this world, you know? Like I want to create a scene where I can be and I can like, oh wow, this is beautiful. You know? I
And
think that's all the purpose of my art, if I can say.
yeah, and then you can really tell. And tell me a little bit, how do you start a project? Like, do you use references? What's your thinking and then execution process?
Yeah, so most of the time I start like making research on Pinterest. So I'm picking some picture that I like and I put it them on PureRef. And then sometimes next step I select one or two and then I feed it in with Midjourney and I ask Midjourney to make some variation of this picture. And then so now I start like the 3D. So now I'm using Blender. Before I was using C4D, but so when I'm in Blender, I'm starting to recreate exactly the image I got from Midjourney, or sometimes it's just an image from Pinterest. It depends. And then I'm just starting to recreate it like as precise as I can, as I see it on the picture. And then once I'm in the scene, I'm like, okay, I don't need it anymore. So now I can just focus on the scene I got there. I can inspire myself by what I'm doing. Like I don't know how to say it, but once I like the scene, I like the beginning. I don't need inspiration anymore. So how can I say that? I don't really know. I don't know if you understand the
No,
process,
no, no.
but
I think I understand. Like, you say, okay, once you get to the point where the work feels uh, substantial enough, you
yeah,
then take over and say, okay, now I'm gonna manage this by myself and see
yeah,
if I can. I think that this
exactly.
is sort of like, that the creative process that everybody goes through, and you're like, oh my god, this is actually looking good, and then you keep working on it, and
Yeah,
then you get depressed because it's like, no, this is shit, and
yeah,
then
yeah. Yeah,
and
of
then you
course.
finalize it, and you're like, ah, actually, this is not bad at all.
Yeah, you come back the next day and you're like, oh, what am I doing?
But
And then yeah, you keep adding details and you're like, oh wow, now this is something. And that's why it's important, and that's why I stopped doing every day because at that time I was a beginner and I felt that I wasn't learning enough. Like staying on one scene just for a day, it wasn't enough for me. I had to learn how to add more detail and to come back to a scene the next day and see what I really did and change stuff like that. So that's why every day wasn't for me. But
that's what I wanted to ask you, because it's like, you know, you in the past I used to hear a lot of criticism of people like, Beeple, but also the work, of other artists that were doing every days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people don't understand how much work
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
into making an everyday. Like it's
No,
it,
it's
it's a
really.
difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I totally agree with you. Like I tried for a certain period to do every days,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated myself. Like the stuff that I was making was like so shit. I think that like my reaction times are so
Mm-hmm.
slow.
Yeah, when I see my work that I did like I don't know 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, wow, this was so shit. And even now, sometimes like if I look back at the work I did like maybe months ago, sometimes I'm like, what? So it's always evolving as well. So that's interesting, I think.
Let me ask you something. So before you were on Cinema 4D because you did the School of Motion, and
Yeah,
then you swapped to Blender. Was it hard for you to make that transition?
I tried like years ago to switch already, but at the beginning I was like with all the control and all the shortcuts weren't the same, so I was like, oh. So I tried for a few days, and I was like, okay, drop it. I don't want to do it. And so I came back to C4D, and like 2 or 3 months ago, no, 2 months ago, I really started to go to switch live for Blender, because it was hard, like maybe the first 2 or 3 days. So it was just I had to just focus for a few days, and it was all right. But yeah, uh, and I wanted to switch because I was a lot inspired by Sweeper 3D. I don't know if you know this guy. This guy is crazy. Like my work is pretty similar to what he does, and Max Hay as well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure you know him.
Yeah.
So that's because of those two guys that I switch, and of course because Blender is open source and you have every add-ons you can get, and for nature scene is like way better than Cinema 40 for me at least. But and so that's why I switched to Blender, and it wasn't that difficult at the end.
I think that, like a lot of people, they overestimate how difficult it is to make the switch. And I hear it all the time. In our field, a lot of people work in archivists with 3ds Max, and they're like, no, you don't understand. 3ds Max says this, 3ds Max says that. And I'm like, look, the only thing that I think it's missing in Blender is a good render engine. Because, like cycles, it's okay, but you have to hack it, right? You have to
Yeah,
have fill lights, you have to have bouncers and everything, because the GI is not as good as, say, Corona or Redshift,
yeah.
if you compare it to Cinema 4D. But
Hmm.
it's not a deal breaker. Like, you know, I think that you can still make very good work with
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
with
I kind
Blender.
of like, I kind of like the render from Cycles. I don't know. But yeah, but plus you get like some options. I don't know if you have that in Octane with Cinema 4D, but I don't think so. But like, if you are running out of VRAM, you can simply by a click saying, "Oh yeah, I want all my texture to be 1K," and you can do it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
for optimization, it's perfect.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can work. You can't do that with Cinema. I'm pretty sure. So you got some small feature like that that I really like.
But also, like, I don't know if it has ever happened to you, but like, if your computer goes to sleep, uh, the render will pause and it will resume when you start
Oh,
again.
oh, I
It
never
it's
noticed that.
crazy because, like, like it has happened in the past that something happened and then my render crashed,
Hmm.
and like I was rendering something and I remember looking at the rendering cycles and I was like, oh shit, my computer shut down. And then I switch on the computer and the render started again and I was like, what? It's all
Oh,
for
I
free.
didn't even know.
And the funny thing is that, like, when I made the switch, it was in 2022. I was doing a lot of like freelance work, and I was like, I used to work for Cinema 4D.
Ah, yeah.
Uh, Actually, I used to work for Chaos Group, but we were getting the licenses for free because we were doing the plugin for V-Ray. And so
Mhm.
at a certain point, they stopped giving me the free software. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll make the switch to Blender. I'm gonna save some money anyway. And then what I ended up doing was like, because I did not have to spend money in licenses, I was spending like 250 euros a month just of assets, of
Yeah.
plugins. Because, it's like, yeah, anyway, it's free. And so, like, I was having so much stuff that I could use from Blender, to make my stuff. And that's another thing that I wanted to ask you. Where do you get your assets from? Because this is one of the most difficult things in Blender, right? Vegetation, things that are like a little bit more realistic,
Yeah, most of
3D
the
models.
add-ons are botanic. What do I get? I get forestation, like the guy from vegetation as well, like the plugin, and then all the 3D assets. I got the cargo from Kitbash 3D, and then also I'm on the Patreon of Sweeper 3D. This guy is doing asset pack sometimes, and from the Blender market, like. And that, yeah, that's crazy with Blender. Like, I wanted to make like water simulation, and now you get what's the name of this add-on as well? I don't remember. It's a water simulation, but it's not actual water simulation. Like it's a 2.5D simulation, so it doesn't take. It's self-fluid or something. And I was like, okay, you can do that. It's crazy. Like with Cinema 4D, you have to make an entire simulation that will crush my computer anytime. So and then yeah, what do I got on add-ons? Yeah, and I'm using Scatter 5 like for the scattering.
Oh, the
Uh,
scatter, yeah, with the
mhm.
biomes and everything.
Yeah, that's. I don't really like the oh you have to scatter on surface. If you compare it to Octane and Cinema 4D, it's better on the scatter system with Octane. That's one thing that we can that is better with Octane. Um, what do I have? Can I just check? I don't
Yeah,
remember
sure, sure.
exactly.
Take your time. I'm really interested because, like I still try to make some art myself in Blender.
Mhm.
And so, like if I can get some tips for myself,
Ah, yeah, I got the Baga add-ons as well. Like,
Bagapipe.
yeah, Baga Ivy, I got Baga Rain, I have.
Those are all
Uh,
free, is that correct?
no, Baga Ivy is not free. Baga Rain, I don't think so. No, no, no. Maybe they have an application that is free, but these I paid for these ones.
I remember that the architectural one it's free, but I might be wrong. Maybe I
Maybe some of
remember.
them are
Yeah.
free. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, that's crazy what you can do with all the vegetation add-ons you get on Blender. Like in Cinema 4D, you only have a forester that is pretty old right now, and I don't know.
I used to like to work with surface spread because this for architecture was really good. Like you
Okay.
had a certain level of control and you could make grass if you had good patches. But you see, like for instance, the scatter plugin, even though it's not, it's it has limitations because you're limited basically to the biomes that are included. But
Mhm.
like it gives you a very good realistic output. It's a little bit heavy for rendering because it's massive when it does the scattering. But there are ways that you can work around it. You can fake
Mhm.
it with a little bit of blur motion and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But it's still crazy to think that a plugin like this, it's like, I don't know, $50, 60 bucks. I can't even remember. And like you have the functionalities that in other software you would have to spend a lot of money.
Mhm. Mhm.
But anyway, enough of a Blender endorsement. And let me ask you something. So a lot of work that you do, it's basically uh, self-marketing work, right? Because you have to do that work
Yes,
to so that people can see it and then they can come to you, to
exactly.
buy your services. Is there
Mhm.
any other marketing activity or something that you do in order to get clients?
No, and that not really, and that's what that's one of the problem I have. Like sometimes I don't really know what to do more, and like to marketing myself, it's like something complicated. And as an artist, I think every artist is facing that problem when you have to sell yourself, and I'm like, oh, I hate doing that. I don't really know where to start. But I'm selling like my prints, and I'm selling stuff on display as well. But I don't really market that, you know. So and you see this
Hmm.
behind me. It's like a limited edition I did with display. So stuff like that can work as well. Um, but yeah, selling myself was is the biggest challenge for me, I think. But yeah, right now I'm doing animations and stuff. Like it's only for 2 months that I'm doing animations. So I'm trying to sell more animation than still frames, and that's why I'm trying to do right now. And even to be known, Instagram really like reels than just still frames. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, like selling animation and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's always the issue, and I think that like artists, unfortunately, they suffer a little bit from that because, like, the main interest that most artists have is to make good work.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, the reality is that nowadays, if you want to be on your own, probably making good work is 30% of the actual work because all the
Mm-hmm.
rest is following up on clients,
Yeah.
calling up people, go to events to
Mm-hmm.
network with others. And oftentimes, the best way for you to make sure that you have, enough money to get to the end of the month is to work in an office, try to
Mm-hmm.
do it full time, and then use the weekend to build your
Yeah, of
portfolio
course.
or the evenings. But it's freaking stressful, because you
Yeah.
get to the end of the day that it's like, if I if I have to click one more polygon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that feeling. Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know, and that's really something that I really need, like to make connection with people. I have I've made some connection with artists in the field on Twitter and stuff like that, but it's not enough. Like I have to go like to your conference and stuff like that. But
That's the thing, like if you come to our conference, you'll see like there is a lot of people, interesting people that have, they do different things. So it might be a good way for you to get in touch with other artists. But
hmm
I do think that like maybe for the type of work that you do, might be also worth to go to more of like a general marketing and social media conferences, because this is also like where you can find people that can actually buy your content and use it. Right now, I tell you, like in the next couple of years, digital designers are going to sell a lot of stuff because of the fact that NFTs are going to come back.
oh yeah, you think so?
Oh yeah, they're
I
coming
hope
back for
so.
sure. One other thing that it's going to come back is crypto, and so like
Yeah.
in 2025 there'll be a lot of new projects that are going to need quite a bit of like digital content,
hmm
to be
hmm
present online. And so I tell you, artists will be very busy. Uh,
Okay, it's good
but
news.
you need to be paid in in
Yeah.
Ethereum and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with
That,
NFT projects.
a lot of people hate this, and I get it because
Yeah,
like
of course.
I've been very involved in 2021 and 2022, and you can actually make good money if you work in that field, but you also have to be very careful because
Yeah.
like it's very easy to get involved into this investing and buying and
Mm-hmm.
selling,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you make a little bit of money and then you spend more money
yeah.
in buying into shitty projects. Did you have
Yeah.
any experience with NFTs yourself?
Yeah. I'm selling some NFT, but right now it's like totally dead for me. I did an edition beginning of this month, and I sold two editions
Oh,
out of
really?
25. Yeah, and then I minted one yesterday for a word on foundation. You know, you get words when you can mint a project with more artists with art. But right now it doesn't really work well for me. But at the time when crypto was really high, it was working well. Let's say for my level.
Yeah, I think there was a period where they really wanted this to work, and so a lot of people were buying artworks,
Hmm.
not really knowing what it was that they were
Yeah.
buying. And like I found myself more or less in a lucky spot in the very beginning because whatever I was putting, people were buying it. But then it
That's
got
good.
to a complete halt, and then it
Yeah.
didn't. But it was a good exercise because I learned how to work fast and how to make work that was a little bit different from the
Hmm.
architectural visualization work.
Yeah.
And let me ask you something. Have you ever done any architectural work? Has anybody ever come to you asking for
No.
like architecture?
No, no, not really. I know like it's pretty famous for a 3D artist to make architect visualization, but never. Maybe when I was working for the event company, I did model like just a building, but it wasn't really for architecture purpose. But no, not really. Um, One of my ex-colleague asked me to come to his company, like he's doing as well architecture stuff, but never heard of him anymore, so I don't know. But so no, not really.
Florian, one more thing. How do you stay motivated? How do you manage to keep moving on in this industry? Because I guess that you also go through some ups and downs. Do you do anything specific for you to say, hey, you know what? Even though things are not that good right now, they're gonna be better. Let me keep going.
Yeah, I think it's all in here. You know, you have to be like, okay, it doesn't work like that, so maybe sometimes I have to do something, change my way of working. Like, and even with the algorithm of Instagram, sometimes it can be really depressing. But that's why, I've changed a bit. Like I was, for years, I didn't gain any followers on Instagram, and I was like, wow, this isn't good. And that's why I started doing animation. And so I try to always, how do you say it, se remettre en question.
To uh, I understand to always put yourself.
Question.
Oh my god, I can't get the word. It's to always question yourself.
Yeah, always question yourself and be like, okay, what do I want to do? How can I do it? And then what am I doing wrong sometimes? And then yeah, and when you have lack of inspiration, I don't know, go for a walk, do sports, see your friends. Like I have a balance between my friends going outside and the work, because I already spend maybe 10 hours in front of my computer every day, even more sometimes. So I gotta go out sometimes, make some tennis, or I don't know, go for a walk, and see my friend have a beer, and you have to have a balance. I think that's the most important thing by doing this kind of job.
I think it's vital. I think that like nowadays, one of the biggest scams that we hear all the time is this hustle, grinding, sort of
Hmm.
like culture where you should
Yeah.
be working like 24/7. Whereas I think that creative people really do need to just sit down and do nothing
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
quite a while. And I
Hmm.
think that, like, this is basically the silent contract with the clients, right? Clients also need to understand that in order to have good work, especially when they're artists themselves, like musicians, they
Hmm.
cannot expect, the work to be like 24/7. They have to
Yeah.
think of it as a moment of inspiration that comes. You
Mhm.
you produce it, and
Yeah.
then you can have a conversation about it. But it's definitely not something.
Yeah, it's part of the process. Quoi.
Yeah. But I think it's easier for an artist to understand another artist
Yeah, yeah, of
than
course.
to say for a manager, because
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
there is
totally
this there is this expression in English that managers think that 9 women can give birth to a baby in 1 month.
yeah, that's a good one.
And so tell me, like, uh, what is that you do, the activities that you like and enjoy the most that allow you to sort of like relax and recover
I think it's,
creatively,
I
sorry.
think it's sports. Like I really like playing tennis. I've been playing tennis for 2, 3 years right now, and like it's the moment where I can like decompress. Like I can cry. I don't not cry. No, crier.
Sweat,
Yes, sweat, of course. But
but also cry.
yeah, it's really frustrating. That's one of the most frustrating sport ever. And then yeah, also see my friends at the bar. Like Friday night, end of the week, and you're like, okay, let's drink a beer and see my friend.
Let me ask you something that this might be a little bit more interesting for the more geeky types out there.
Mhm.
What do you run as a computer configuration?
Mm. Mm, I don't have a big configuration. I need to update it, but right now I have a 2080 Ti as a GPU, and I have an old 1950X Threadripper as a CPU. So it was big at the time, but right now it's very old. I think it's like 7 years old or something like that. And what do I? Yeah, I have a lot of RAM. I think I got 128 giga RAM, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I got two screens. Um, and now I got a setup for this interview, so the mic and
Soon, like this is how you take the first step. You get interviewed, and then next you're gonna start doing your own tutorials. Then
uh,
maybe,
I'm doing my own tutorials, but I'm not using my voice. I'm using an AI voice.
like some people are just a little shy and they say, I'm not a native speaker and maybe I make some mistakes.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, I think that this is a nice thing because it really shows, the
yeah,
persona,
yourself.
yeah, a little bit the character. And I think that, people are interested in this kind of things. As
Mm-hmm.
I was telling you before the interview, a lot of people, they might look at your work and think, wow, I'll never be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe during an interview like this, they will see you and they will think, man, this is just a dude that I could have a beer with in a bar, right? And so maybe the distance is not that big between me and him. And so
Yeah,
they'll find the inspiration to say, hey, I'm going to start my own
yeah, of course.
content creation and I'm going to be
You're
inspired
motivating
by
me right
Florian.
now.
Come again?
You are motivating me right now.
Nah, dude, I think that the motivation it's always inside of us.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes what we do is that we fail to remind ourselves of the things that we're good at, and I know that I do it myself all the time. I think too little of myself. uh, but it's always, I love doing these interviews because I get to talk to people like you, which are incredibly talented, and I see how humble you are about your work and everything, that I think to myself, you have to do better, you have to do more.
Mhm.
uh, and so, in turn, I guess that this also helps the people that I interview to say, hey, wait a minute, there is this guy that wants to hear my story. Maybe there is a little bit more to it
Yeah, yeah.
than I actually think.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I have a YouTube channel as well. So, but yeah, I use the AI voice so to do the voice. But yeah, that I think that's will be a good step if I can use the camera and talk myself and not
Now you have
use
the
this.
chance. I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got
I'll put
everything
the
to do.
link to your YouTube in the description so that people can go and see it.
But yeah, last week's I just posted my time lapse of my creation so people can understand more of it, how I work, and understand my workflow a bit better.
How long does it take you on average to finish one of your animations?
It kind of depends, but I try to do one per week. Sometimes I can manage to do two per week. But yeah, but for the rendering, I use the render farm, so it's a bit quicker because with my 2080 Ti, sometimes it can take 10 minutes for a frame, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, I'm using drop and render. I don't know if you know this render farm. And then they offer me to do it for free. Even I just have to tag them, so it's win-win. So that's cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, I would say one per week. It's the average.
And the- how long is the sort of like inspiration part? Because I guess to me, the biggest challenge if I were to do one project per week would be to say, this is, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. So, maybe I'll continue doing it. So, how long does it take for you to say, okay, now we're in a good place, we can finalize the project? Because I,
Actually,
I, I wouldn't be surprised if you say it takes me 6 days to find the idea and 1 day to do it.
no, not 6 days, but sometimes it can be tricky. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I like this image. I'm gonna try doing something like that. And then I'm like, okay, let's try to go further and see if it works if I generate it with some AI with Midjourney. And I'm like, no, I don't like it. So sometimes it can take few hours, but not days. But it depends on the mood I am. If I'm like, if I have a lack of inspiration, yeah, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm not doing it today. I won't do anything good today. So. But that's okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I don't have a lot of lack of inspiration, I'd say. But yeah, that's. I think it's because of the artist I'm inspiration by. Like I always see their work, and I'm like, okay, I gotta do something like that. Not exactly the same, but I have to try something. So I'd say inspiration is not like a big problem for me.
Let me ask you one more thing. You have mentioned Midjourney. You're using it, to get to start with sketches and stuff. Do you use any other AI tools in your workflow?
I use some AI stuff to upscale my video.
Hmm.
Like I render them in 2K, 24 frame per second, and then I upscale them to 30 frame per second in 4K. And then I do the same with the still image, like I upscale them to 4K. Do I use any other? The voice I said, like the AI voice for my tutorial. Um, and that's pretty much it, I think. But as an artist, I'm not. I don't really. It's not that I really like AI. I don't. I like AI. Like you have to use it the right way. Like I see artists on Twitter using Midjourney generate images and then selling it for thousands. I'm like, okay. They spend maybe I don't know their workflow, so maybe I'm judging here, but it's it's always the part. Is that from the artist or who did the work? It's like I
I
don't know.
know
It's an interesting question.
these are, I think, these are questions that should be asked, but
Hmm.
in a way, it's a little bit too early for us to have an answer
Yeah.
because, like things are moving so fast that it's really difficult to imagine how this is going to pan out. And
Hmm.
I say this because, like, when I started out in architecture visualization, it was around the time that 3D models were starting to come out.
Hmm.
So companies like Evermotion, they will make
Hmm.
model packs.
Yeah.
And so a lot of artists, me included, we were actually judging other artists for using pre-made models because we were like, yeah, that's not the right way to do it. If you want to make a rendering, you have to model the couch, you have to model the kitchen, you have to model everything. And so now, if you look back, this is sort of silly, right? Now, some people might say, well, it's not the same comparison. Midjourney does this and this and that. What if society agrees that, looking at other work and remixing it and doing all the stuff the Midjourney is doing, it's actually okay? Then are we stupid for not doing it now? I'm not saying yes, no. Those are questions that people can ask. It's just that we don't have the answers yet, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah. But I think those two worlds can cohabitate, like you can have artists doing AI stuff and still have 3D artists like us and doing their stuff. But yeah, it's a tricky question, and we don't really know what to do with that right now. So, but yeah, the part is that AI is feed himself with arts from other artists that they don't are not really allowed to do it. So we don't really know what's the rules there. The rules there are not established yet. So yeah, but I think as artists we must use it. Like we must understand how to use it for your work, your personal work, and use it the right way. That's that's it.
are you scared of AI?
No, not that much. Not that much, because like I said, I think AI we can cohabitate with traditional artists, let's say, and as long as you use it the right way, I'm not really scared. Maybe scared of the not the art side, but the other side of the AI, like in the everyday work for everybody. Maybe, but it's evolving. We can't do anything about it, and it's like that. And I think we have to embrace it, and yeah.
Florin, believe it or not, we've been talking already for more than 40 minutes.
Oh wow! Oh
Time
wow!
goes super fast, I told you. I like to keep these interviews short and sweet. Uh,
Yeah, no
I
problem.
I really like your attitude. I think you're a super humble person, and
Oh,
I
thanks, man.
love to see artists being so grounded, but also so talented. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thanks to you.
If people want to find you, where should they look?
On my Instagram, so they can check Floreno, so FLORENAUX.
I'll put a link
Yeah,
in the
I'll put the
description.
link
Don't
down
worry.
below. But thanks for having me. It was a great pleasure to meet you, man, and really appreciate it.
Florian, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna stop the recording. Thanks a lot for doing this, and thanks a lot everybody for watching, I guess.
Thanks, man.